All right, so we're here talking Xfinity today, which obviously, if you look at the bottom of the screen, Brandon Cruz DFS on Patreon, you can get access to all these sheets in case you want to dive into them for this race or any other race of the season. Support us. You know, Pierce took me on this year, so we're working together, splitting
Probably
the
the other
work.
way around.
I
You
think
have,
I
you
think
have a
it's you.
much larger audience than I do.
Yeah, but you were doing way more work. You're letting me help you with the work this year. Anyway, so Xfinity, I think it's the same idea as the Truck Series, and you know, not as extreme as play guys from the back, but typically the guys who wreck in this race, I know these wrecks happen up front. In my mind, I know Gregson has been stupid aggressive in the past years. He hasn't been involved in a lot of the wrecks, but he'll end up causing the accordion effect that takes people out in like the fifth, sixth, seventh positions. And so um, these are the ones that I do legit get worried about Xfinity going green to the end or not having as many wrecks as the Truck Series might.
So I think my first thought, and I've been thinking about this as well. We've got trucks. It's crazy. We all agree on that. That's not just our perception, but it is also due to the data. Cup Series, we've seen enough Cup races, huge sample size. I mean, obviously, there's a huge sample size Xfinity as well, but it's not as constant. Like the drivers that are in the Cup Series have, for the most part, been in the Cup Series forever. The cars that have been in there, for the most part, haven't really changed that much. And so we can look at that data. But where you look at the Xfinity Series, the drivers change, the teams kind of rise and fall. There's an ebb and flow. We used to, I guess Xfinity might be trending upward again. I don't really know if I would go that far. I don't think it's sinking as fast as it was, or as precipitously as it was in previous seasons. But my point is Xfinity as crazy as Truck and Cup? I don't know. Um, are we looking at the data, or are we just perceiving it that way? Is there a difference? I mean, obviously, one of the things I'm sure everyone remembers the 2019 Xfinity race that went green from beginning to end. And that one, I think it's probably on here. Well, I mean, I know it's on here. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. You know what race I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Daytona 500. The truck race the night before was insane, which we just talked about in the other show. So then we get into the Xfinity race during the afternoon, like, oh boy, here comes another crazy one. And Michael Annett just stays out front the entire time, and they all run single file, and nothing ever happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just one race, but it was one race, and it effectively, messes with the subconscious. Where if you take that one race away, the 2018 Xfinity race was crazy. The summer Xfinity races are always
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But you take that one race away, and then our perception of the Xfinity Series plate races is just as extreme as the trucks. But you put that one race in, and then you also add in the tendency of the Talladega race to kind of be a little bit more mild, especially the spring race for whatever reason. And then you get this perception, not really based on data, but our eyeballs, which you got to trust, that maybe the Xfinity Series isn't as crazy. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Is that, are we, what are your thoughts?
I think we're on the same boat because if anything, I have probably been more successful in the truck series at plate races, and Xfinity is straight up 50-50. Like truck race, I'm not saying that I know I'm going to cash, but I'm pretty confident that I'll have lineups at least min cash. In Xfinity at these races, I have no idea if any of the lineups are going to cash because these races are so it's so it depends on who the cars are, that like who's driving the cars and who's in the good equipment. Like if the guys in, the junior motorsports in the Joe Gibbs racing equipment knows what they're doing, they're not going to wreck. The guys that are going to be wrecking are the guys that are starting from 18th to 29th with the belief that they have a car that can win, and those are the guys that make mistakes. And
Well, let's just quickly look
yeah.
at this then. Um, but I agree, there is a little bit more talent in the Xfinity series, at least plate. I don't know. Let's just look at the data before we start drawing conclusions.
So like,
Uh,
but well, before like, I know for a fact I lost my ass on the Dega race last year that was rain shortened because
why
that
were you? Well, they were both rain shortened.
yeah. I mean
And
last
why
year was
are you
terrible.
playing so much at a plate race?
I mean, not lost my ass, but like I know I didn't have a single lineup cash in the Jeb Burton
But it was rain
yeah,
shortened.
because it was rain shortened. And
That's a valid excuse. And I know, like, I try not to make excuses, but if you're planning on chaos and the rain comes, you're screwed.
yeah, you're
Because,
SOL.
I mean, there still can be wrecks, but we're counting on 100 and whatever laps. And fewer laps means fewer cautions. And fewer cautions means, all right, well, my strategy isn't going to work. I need all of those laps. I need this race to run to completion for, I know it sounds like an excuse, but obviously the more laps, the better increases your odds of a bunch of wrecks. And I mean, I think you can just look at the data. You can see that when that happens, like even though, as you say that, we look at that Talladega race and from the Brandon Brown episode, which I don't know if we want to get your channel pulled.
Well, the
There it is.
no,
There's
well
your winning lineup.
that one was good. I'm talking about the one that Burton won, the spring race last.
So well, yeah, well they both were rain short. So the spring race, yeah, that's going to probably be pretty. I'll have to find where that one is on here, but so the Brandon Brown one, I think there are plenty of cautions. I'd have to look and see. Well, we can here, so you want to look and see right now. How many cautions do you remember in the Brandon Brown? Let's go, Brandon.
Including state. I'm gonna
try my best.
I think 4 or 5.
Channel pulled.
No, you can't. Feel free to embrace it. Nobody like NASCAR clearly doesn't know what they're doing, so I could just say I don't know what we're doing either.
I can't believe that. How NASCAR turned into a meme. Poor Brandon Brown. That guy just can't get ahead.
Yeah.
What he's done nothing wrong ever. You can't find a driver who really has followed all the rules, tried his hardest, worked his way up, and
who's a nice guy and just, I mean, screwed. Absolutely.
His dad was battling cancer during the whole COVID issue. Couldn't see it. Like, all of that. And then what's he get in return? You're not going to get a sponsor. You become a meme where everyone else is profiting off of your name, where the government basically has turned against you and has turned him into almost a domestic terrorist. Imagine all of a sudden the high point of your career has also made you become the face of domestic terrorism, and I'm saying that in quotations. It's just, you can't even make this stuff up. If I were to write a story about that, people are like, yeah, whatever. Well, no.
Yeah, the poor guy was vilified just because he had the worst name at the worst time.
It's not even that close. It's not. Man, that lady, geez, she owes. I don't know if she's ever apologized to him, but her actions right there may have ruined his life.
Oh, that was terrible. And like,
the quick thinking of the NBC reporter, the quick thinking to ruin a man's life.
Oh,
maybe just don't say anything. Yeah. Maybe like don't acknowledge it. I mean, I don't want to give a teacher lesson, but sometimes you don't feed attention to something. You just ignore it, let it die out. When you acknowledge it, guess what? You just make it worse. And boy, did they make it worse. All right, so we're getting off topic again. How many cautions did we have? We had 1, 2, 3 cautions in the final stage. So that's enough, even though the race ended pretty close to completely finished before they gave Brandon Brown the victory, right? I can't remember how many laps left. That's pretty close for a Talladega race. So you got enough cautions there at the end and chaos at the end that makes this lineup here, if you're using the Fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet, where we can quickly, easily see past optimal lineups. And we can see Jesse Little outside the top 20, freaking Mike Harmon. And it's not so surprising that you see guys starting in the back. It's that they didn't even scrape the top 15, you know? I mean, I can see Mills making it. We've seen Vinnie Miller make it in similar equipment and do about the same finish. I think if we look deeper, we're just going to find it's not necessarily so much that they had a really good day. It's just that other people who could have scored comparably just had wrecks, right? When you got Ross Chastain finishing 6th and Michael Annett, those are outliers, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Ross Chastain one where he actually lost place differential points is a real outlier. Like, that almost never happens.
Yeah. Well, they've got great cars, and that's something worth noting. if you're going to break any rules in the Xfinity Series where you're not playing guys in the back, one of the rules that I would consider breaking is to play Kaulig racing cars. The Kaulig racing cars, just every single plate race, it's almost like they're operating with completely different equipment, and the field is vastly inferior to what those guys are driving. Obviously, Haley is incredibly talented at plate racing.
Mm-hmm.
Allmendinger's always been pretty good. Chastain is incredible. Then Burton got a win, although that was that rain shortened nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But if Jeb Burton can get a win, then there's something going on with those cars.
Yeah.
And whoever's going to slide into the cars this weekend, who we got now with them? It's going to be Daniel Hemrick.
Yeah. One thing that, but do you remember? I don't know if it was.
Did he win at Phoenix? I can't even remember.
Yeah, he won the championship.
He won the championship, but did he win that race?
Yeah, he won the race because he shoved poor
remember.
Cindric out of the way.
They're all clowns.
It's so anyway.
I'm going to take back what I said, that this is trending upward. No, Xfinity Series is trending downward. When your champions are Cindric, followed by Daniel Hemrick. So you got Cindric and then Hemrick. Who's next? I guess whoever's good 2022 champion is going to be anyone we can cleverly put the word "wreck" into their name. I suppose that's what's going to happen. Trending downward. All right.
I don't remember what. I'm pretty sure it was Talladega. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I like you said, like Kaulig like knows what they're doing. Like it's clear and apparent that like they're the only team in the series that is organized. Like I remember when they came out of turn 4. Like I said, I think it was the year before last.
They follow orders until they don't follow.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, I think they all follow orders except for Chastain.
Yeah.
He was the problem, right? Is that what you were getting ready to get into?
Well, I was gonna say the one that Chastain wrecked Haley or Allmendinger in, but
Allmendinger and Haley got the win.
Oh yeah. But there was one where they came out of turn 4 and they blocked the track. They were the lead cars, blocked it 3 wide, and like nobody could pass. And I was so frustrated because no other team like locked together and bothered to try and pass them. They just rode in line.
Yep.
Like.
Yeah. So yeah, with friends like that, who needs enemies? But Chastain's gone, so good riddance. I'm sure he'll pop up again. He won't go away. Chastain will never go away. Well, there he is again. I mean, he wasn't a full-time driver, and there he was spoiling the 2021 Talladega race, going down there and turning laps, trying to be a hero and smash some watermelons. How many? Let me see if I can pull that up and see how many laps led he got in that race. It's not really relevant, but I'm just curious to see how he was able to be optimal despite losing place differential points. And maybe it's a glitch on my sheet that has Chastain in it. As I'm looking at 2021 Dega Fall, I'm not seeing Chastain here. I might have it labeled wrong. Uh-oh. Whatever. Something I might need to update. Let me see. What do I guess it says 2021 Dega Fall. Oh, yeah. That's Daytona. I'm sorry. My apologies. That's Daytona to... Oh, yeah. Let me give you the real one.
Okay.
Unshare for a second and make a fix here. People are like, oh, well, this is how you find mistakes in the screen. All right.
And that's why you do it, a week before the race. We're not here the live show of...
It's a quick fix. Yeah. You find mistakes all the time. Go through however many cells there are. I would love to see someone else do this. All right, I will make the fix here.
Yeah. As you've been showing me everything, the last like 2 days, I don't know how you haven't like cracked your head against the wall at times.
I do often. I lose my mind often. It's terrible. Let me see. So I want that to be, I think, that. All right, you want to take any guesses? You know what should have been the clue? Mm-hmm. Brandon Brown, where was his name at?
Oh, that's true.
Where was our mind? Like, we should have like, wait a second. Brandon Brown won this race. Why are we not seeing Brandon Brown on here? Well, just a second as I finish this last cell up. But this is a good lesson for people. Like, even a super easy fix is going to take me a couple minutes to do. And Now just imagine all the other things that have to get adjusted in these spreadsheets.
Mhm.
I hate this product. I'm never going to buy it. Okay, cool, great, awesome.
Sure.
That's freaking sweet.
I am glad that I've taken over like the email and the business side of it and everything.
that's
That
enough
saves you
part.
so much time. I didn't realize how much
It's everything. I'm
it's
telling you,
crazy.
like it's so easy to have like a monster website that takes care of all the stuff, which I had in the past, which was great. It's fine. It's nice. But like just since it is story time, it was cool being with FanVice/Awesemo, right?
Mhm.
And I eventually got out because I just was too busy with real life. Didn't want to do it anymore. But my last year there, I just woke up one day to them saying, "Oh, by the way, you're doing projections and you're doing all this stuff, and we're going to charge a $150 package." Wait, what?
Mhm.
Because before 2018, if anyone remembers, it was all free. It was just a free podcast, free picks article. And then I wake up one day and it's like, oh, we're going to paywall all this stuff. Like, what stuff? What stuff are we paywalling?
Mhm.
And I don't know. I never really felt comfortable with that. It was fine. They did a lot of like the sales and all that stuff. But like, working for someone else, you're not necessarily in control. We are in control, but we also have to do all the work.
Mhm.
So there's trade offs. I don't know which is better. Like sometimes I would glad to just, you know,
Uh-huh.
introvert, go full autism and just work on spreadsheets. But I also don't want to be bullied around, pushed around,
Mhm.
and deal with all that stuff. Anyway,
Well,
I'm
well,
not saying
lastly, here
anyone
I'll
ever
I'll jump
bullied. Like
on the.
fanboys, people are all great. They're all
Uh,
nice, super awesome dudes. So I don't want to. Very pleasant experience.
I just like having to push my own stuff and not other people's. That's just a big thing
Yeah,
to
I
me.
did not like, I like a lot of the guys. So I didn't mind like, hey, check out Lofty or check out Draft Cheat and those guys. It was kind of awkward though when like Draft Cheat just walked away in the middle of everything, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, Adam Shearer is an expert too." Like, wait, what? Where did this guy come from? And he's fine now, but it was very awkward to like,
Yeah,
carry the
it's a very
flag.
harsh transition.
Yes, and like to be a loyal company guy. I don't want to be a company guy for anything. I'm just trying to do spreadsheets, folks. All right, so here it is. Joe Graff, 40th to 10th. Brandon Brown, 19 to 1. Brandon Jones, 7 to 2. That would have been the outlier. Like, I don't even think this Brandon Brown one was that crazy to play.
Mhm.
The rest are just kind of all like, hope they finish the race. It's great. It's awesome. Not really that strange, is it?
No, it's not. The graph is interesting because
Because there was enough cautions at the end.
yeah, but
Now you compare that to the one that we were talking about before, where you said you got destroyed, which was Talladega in the spring, which was rain shortened, but it was really rain shortened, if I remember correctly.
yeah, I think it was like right after stage two. But I was saying the graph one because I know for a fact, like I'm usually pretty heavy on graph, and the SOB just wrecks in every single race. And so I know the ones where he doesn't wreck, he'll be optimal because he always starts like DFL. But
So we got yeah, I hate graph.
yeah.
So we got what 20 laps. You got a quick caution, took out some guys. Then you got 5 laps caution, and then we ended pretty early. It wasn't too short of a race, but you got 31 cars in the lead lap. That's not what we expect at least 10 more to
Mhm.
get taken out. And so, and those 10 more aren't going to be this 10. When we
Mhm.
expect 10 more to get taken out, we're expecting Jeb Burton to get taken out. We're expecting Riley Herbst to get taken out. We're expecting these guys to go down, which then slots these guys up, which is 20 place differential points, right? If
Mhm.
you get that wreck, then you get a guy like Josh Berry, even though I think Vargas would be a good example, who was in first place. Wow. He's another guy can't catch a break. That it's easy to feel sorry for whatever reason. But anyway, Vargas here could have, got 10 spot. He could have finished 20th easily.
Mhm.
And so you add the place differential, you add the finishing position. That's a huge swing that changes the optimal lineup completely. But we end early. We don't run very many green flag laps, and that's that. Nothing you do. Daytona's going to get run. They will run that race all the way through because they got lights.
Mhm.
Talladega doesn't have lights. That's what causes a lot of those problems.
I
When
don't know why Talladega still doesn't have lights. I know they're like, oh, the infrastructure. I mean, it's 2022. Like, I
probably pretty expensive, right?
Yeah, but look at look at how many races have been rain shortened. It's like,
Well, here's the solution, and NASCAR doesn't want to hear
oh,
this, but
start earlier.
everyone. Why are you starting the race at 3 o'clock in Alabama when you know the sun's going to go down in like 2 minutes? What are we doing? Start the race at noon.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to get that West Coast. No one's watching it on the West Coast. Whatever. No one's watching these rain delayed races. I love when they're like, I don't know if they still do this. Remember, like, we can start the race 15 minutes early. Remember they
Oh
make
yeah,
a
yeah,
big
yeah,
drive?
yeah, yeah. We
What's that going to
there's
do?
a big rain cell coming. The race is probably gonna be rain shortened. We'll start at 15
You
minutes early.
need to
Like,
be able to move it up 2 hours,
yeah.
3 hours, or just start the race at noon. You don't have to do them all at noon, but there are races that predictably are affected more by weather. Martinsville used to be one of those. Now that they have lights, it's not a problem. But
But
Martinsville,
then they
because
shortened the
of
race for that one too, the Cup Series.
we shortened the race now. That's 400. I'm not even ready to go into that rabbit hole of whether I want to be upset or not. Yeah, because I've been playing Martinsville
Uh,
races, and there's been times like, yeah, 500 laps is a little too much. But there's also times where like 500 laps is perfect. It's awesome.
yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But with Martinsville, it was always kind of around time change, like every time.
Mhm.
And so it would get dark sooner. So, hey, you need to start this one a lot sooner than you do. We're going to start at 3 o'clock. What are you doing? Same thing with Talladega. You don't need to spend $1 billion on lights. Just start it at noon and you're going to give yourself some wiggle room. Or at least you can tell your fans you're doing the best that you can to get it done anyway.
Mhm.
All right, so that's that one. We'll go back to some more Xfinity races, and I kind of see what we think. All right, we'll look at. Hopefully, this is also good for me to make sure that I don't have any mistakes in here. Daytona, which one? Let me make sure that that's labeled. That just should be Daytona Fall. All right. Last summer Daytona, Justin Haley wins again. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. When doesn't he win? Starting ninth. I would have no problem playing Justin Haley starting ninth.
Mhm.
I think I probably did play some. Christopher Bell starting 15th. It's fine. Like in GPPs, I guess if you're going to cash approach, you wouldn't do that because he's just going to cost you too many points if he
Mhm.
wrecks out. But I think it's a good way to differentiate slightly, even though I don't know if it does that much because he is a big name. What do you think?
With I think with Bell, if I remember correctly, Haley even starting ninth gets a lot of ownership. I'm more than happy to play Haley and Bell and Allmendinger, but once I get through like a lot of my lines, I'll still be underweight on them. And this is a situation. I know we talked about like play the good guys yesterday and didn't really focus a lot on ownership, but these races are the ones where like I'll have like one or two lines with Haley or Allmendinger, just hoping that they'll finally wreck at some point.
Doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah.
Allmendinger finishes second. David Starr survives. Not a massive superstar performance. I want to look and see how close he was to not making it here in a second. And all these guys actually pretty much did the same thing. Yaley, White, Starr. Yaley and Starr, you might as well consider the same. White is a little bit of an outlier, but I would have to look and see who was White driving for. But it really doesn't matter. Most of these Xfinity cars can make it to the end. If the Mike Harmon cars can make it to the end with enough cautions, and there are usually plenty of cautions in these Daytona races.
So the one thing I don't like about Jason White is he races up front the whole race. If you look at his
Lap by lap.
laps, like Jason pisses me off because I always have a lot of Jason, and I'm like, you're racing in like 11th. If I
Here we go.
if my memory's
Analyzing Jason White data, folks,
uh,
and who would have thunk it?
here
But
we
we are
go.
going to do it. Ready?
He's yeah 16th row.
All right. Jason White. He spends stage one in the back, but does not spend stage two in the back. He gets up there, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm telling. This is what's wrong with my
That's
brain. I just have
stupid.
PTSD of Jason White being like, "What are you doing racing these guys?"
I don't know if he's involved in a wreck in this.
I think he pits because I think he stays out under the stage.
You do like the right? Like I
Oh yeah.
understand the. I mean, that's just dumb in stage two for whatever reason to run up there. Maybe he was just trying to figure things out. I'll be. You'd have to talk to Jason about that. Obviously, reading a lot into that, but if I were to defend him, I would say, all right, well, I would like to see you run up front for a little bit just to see if you can handle it, see what your car has, and then like best case scenario when you get a chance, or I drop to the back, if that's what happened, or maybe he's just being stupid. I don't really know. But then at the end, he gets back up there and he's able to hold his spot and has a decent finish. Let's see who else was there. Star and Yaley. What was their approach? They just made their move a little bit earlier, which I don't have a problem with Star and Yaley having as much experience. And you see Star just right in the back for all of stage one. That's a very smart move. Yaley's kind of up there in the middle. I don't know about. I mean, that's a dangerous spot
Mhm.
in my book, right here, where Yaley's running in stage two. Can't win in stage two, and you can't win in 20th place. But that to me is the danger zone. You either want to run up front or in the back. I think running up front early is fine.
So I had to go back because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was like, I'm pretty sure White and Star were racing for MBM in that race, and they were. Jason White was in the 66.
Yeah. Well, those car long cars are
Uh,
fine at the plate
he
tracks.
puts a lot of money into those.
Yeah,
Like
and
he's
he
put,
always has. Those are the
yeah,
ones where you would always guarantee he was going to qualify well, and we'll see how that goes this year. But I have no problem. Like the ones that I worry the most are, it's not even so much the equipment; it's these guys that would just get in for like Cesar Baccarella,
God,
who
dude.
I think a couple times had decent races for Mario
Uh,
Gosselin or for PJ, but like it just doesn't have enough experience. Vines or Vines. I don't even know if I'm ever going to remember how to say this guy's name. He was one of the. He was the dude that would go around in the Trump fire suit, if I remember
yeah, yeah,
correctly,
yeah,
right? Didn't even really have a Trump sponsorship. He would just show up at the Republican conventions or whatever. Like, I'm
yeah,
the Trump driver.
yeah.
Oh, you are? Cool. Like, not really.
I'm the Trump
I mean,
guy. I
just
race. I
imagine
race in
doing a thing
NASCAR.
wearing a fire suit where it's like not a race. That should have been the clue to anyway. Like, wait a second. We're all in suits. Some of us got polos on. You're in a fire suit. What's going on? Well, like, yeah, he's a fireman, but he doesn't have a fire suit on.
Uh-huh.
He's a police officer, but he at least put on a polo. You still got the fire suit. What's going on? Is there a race today? Uh,
Do you remember
either
when
way, he's still
Jesse?
sticking
Do you remember
around.
when Jesse Awuji went on news stations after Newman's wreck, talking about like the safety of the helmets?
Well,
And
he's got a full-time right. I mean, he's got something. Just because we pull a cover off of a car, we have to make sure we remember. Like we've seen a lot of teams pull covers off of cars and say, "Look at our car," and then 2 weeks later, the car's gone and the team's done.
uh,
But it looks like Awuji's fine. Uh, I like Awuji; he's a nice guy, but I think Matt Weaver said it correctly that he's more of a moving chicane.
yeah.
He's caused some problems. He's destroyed several of my lineups, and I don't remember him ever really helping me out in the truck series. No, I don't think he ever did. I think he just cost me money and made me build dead lineups, hoping that, well, if he can just run around there in the back, whatever. Poor Luigi. Yeah. Well, what did he exactly say again about the Newman stuff?
Well, no, he was just. I just remember he was on like news stations like the night Newman's still in the hospital and he's like showing the helmet that saved his life, but he's in like his fire suit and everything on like Good
Oh,
Morning
that's right.
America.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Luigi in the first.
yeah,
I was nervous. Like, what was it? He barely even raced it. Like, one, why did you get that guy? Two, is he put on the fire suit, didn't he?
yeah.
At least he didn't throw on like the Navy Admiral uniform or whatever it was.
That's true.
It's dressed like a human being. You don't have to dress your job. All right. So I can't remember what we were looking at here. I was just trying to look at that Talladega race to see Jason White. Or no, this is Daytona Spring.
Mhm.
Or spring summer, which typically is a little more chaotic. But the Daytonas are always usually pretty wild. All right, Daytona. I don't want 2020. That one I think is crazy too. They're all freaking crazy. Great Galding almost with the win. Poor Great. Where is he at now?
I don't think he has a ride.
I like Grant. I thought he was a decent driver. All right, Daytona Spring. Daniel Hemrick. Wow, this is a weird one. and I mentioned this, I think, in my video that sometimes Xfinity, um, and remember that they had the benefit in DraftKings of setting these salaries ahead of
Mhm.
time. Like, let's see, because they knew the starting grid. They're not going to know the starting grid for this. But man, this is crazy. Daniel Hemrick is not in the optimal lineup. Either Jeb Burton or Myatt Snyder. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This
But
is when. Yeah.
remember, they were able to set qualifying. Let me see, where were they starting at? Like they knew Daniel Hemrick would be pretty chalky starting 21st, and so DraftKings jacked his price up. They jacked up JJ Gailey to $9,200. I mean, they even lowered AJ Allmendinger based on it's like they watch these pockets. They know what
Uh-huh.
people are doing, stacking in the back. They've got plenty of data. They can see, all of their entries from the last 8 years and see
Hmm.
basically here's what people enter, here's how they do it, and they just manage. Doesn't even they do kind of like what you did, is just ignore the names and they set pricing mainly based on these starting positions. I
Hmm.
mean, what was Jason White? No way.
Well, look, go
What
to
the?
go to his finishes. Do you have his results on this?
I can pull them up probably pretty
Because
quickly.
Jason
Why?
White has been a stupid consistent guy on these. Look at his
Um,
finishes. I mean,
I don't know if
Jason,
he's specifically in this one,
he's on the
but what
bottom.
I can do is just, is he on here?
Yeah, I saw him.
Oh, yeah. All right. So 15th, 10th. What are you talking about? He's not that well. He did finish 15th and 10th. And I think he was optimal in the spring race,
Uh,
if I remember correctly. So maybe he was chalky in that race. That could have influenced it. And there is something there too. I'm trying to, was it maybe a truck race? He was optimal as well.
yeah, I think he was optimal the night before in the Truck Series, or he
Um,
he finished well, and that is.
Let me look at the 2021 Daytona. Yeah, so there it is. He scored 65 points and was only $6,000. Started 40th, so I'm sure that factored a little bit in. I'm sure his ownership starting 40th was kind of pretty high, and he scored a bunch of points. But I still I personally, when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that's got to be wrong. I have had to have made. I know I didn't do anything wrong with the spreadsheet, but $9,000 for Jason White, what in the world? Because I just talked about in the truck podcast I was doing about how NASCAR or DraftKings, you know, given the choice between getting the salaries
Mm-hmm.
perfect and making the perfect contest, or being soft so that everyone can play, and so you get more people entering it in, they're going to go with the soft salaries. They're going to make it easier to build lineups so that you build 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 20 lineups as opposed to just two. Well, this runs completely contrary to that.
Mm-hmm.
When you're making people consider $9,000 for Jason White, that's very
Look at Chase
harsh.
Briscoe right under that.
Yeah, 11,500 in a plate race. That might be one of the. I don't. Man, that might be the highest price for a driver in a plate race across all series. I remember old school pricing when you only had 5 drivers. I remember Dale Earnhardt Jr. I think was, or maybe it was Denny Hamlin. Someone starting in the back for like $12,000. But that was the old. That was
Mm-hmm.
pre. Then they had pass differential. That might be the highest price ever. This is very extreme. So my takeaway here is not to overreact to, well, I think they just went way overboard on that pricing. And that's why you don't have Daniel Hemrick or Jed Burton or Myatt Snyder or even Chase Briscoe. Starting 37th, he still can't get in there. And he doesn't wreck. Wow. What a world. What a world. All right.
Or
Let's go
even,
back.
I guess, still the takeaway is you can still look at the place differential from this one
Sam Mayer,
race.
10,400, starting
Oh my
22nd.
god.
That's too much. And that was back when Sam Mayer was wrecking every single week, killing some cars. I would kind of dismiss that one. All right. Let's go to. We've already talked about Talladega Spring. We've already talked about Talladega Fall. We'll talk about last year's Daytona 500. That's wild. Now, you can quickly go through if you just want to see. I think over here you can see that the number is actually pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
The average starting position of an optimal guy at Daytona is 24th. So that's average. So that's kind of like your baseline.
Mm-hmm.
and your target is around 7th, so give or take. And they're pretty much the same, you know. But if you wanted like a quick cheat sheet of, all right, where do I draw the line? Well, that's where you kind of want to go around. Obviously, it's going to go back and forth a little bit. It gives you an idea. But anyway, and so let's take that idea and then look at last year's Daytona and say, all right, well, to hell with your averages. Because in this race, the average position of an optimal driver was 33rd, but yet their finish was still 8th. You still, like, the target's always kind of still the same. You really need that top 10. But where they start from, like, it sways between, you know, 29th, 24th, 21st, 13th.
Yeah,
Again, that was rain shortened. Back to 33rd, 22nd. 22nd. I need to label that differently.
Why do you have Timmy Hill? That might be an issue on the Jeb Burton one, because that's Timmy Hill starting first.
21 Talladega Spring. We'll find out. Q2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. L7, I7. Oh, that's probably it. That doesn't look right either. Oh, I know what it is. Because some of these are pulling from optimals. I'll fix it while you talk.
You're good. I was just looking. Well, Timmy Hill did finish 13th in that race. So 27th finished 13th.
He did. I know exactly what it is. It's the so some of these spreadsheets are pulling from previous spreadsheets. Some of them are pulling from AAs. I need to do from optimal spreadsheets, and the formatted slightly different, and so that's why. All right, let me see if I can fix that real quick. That should be AA. So you need to talk right now.
Yeah, I mean, either way, like when we look at the plate races, I mean, it's the same thing that we talked about yesterday, but just being luck, really. Like, you need a lot of things to go your way. You need to play the guys who don't get involved in wrecks. I know a lot of people like want more explanation on that, but that's really what it turns into, is just surviving the mayhem.
So you got to keep talking.
I know. I'm bringing up stuff over here to bring stuff up. Anyway, I love playing Jason White at plate races. I know we just kind of talked about him, and we kind of looked at his finishes, but I'm always overweight on Jason White. I got to bring up this spreadsheet real quick. Jason White, who else? I always play Joe Graff Jr. Like I said, the guy nearly, if he doesn't wreck, he'll finish top 10, and I think that explanation on a lot of the guys, though, if they don't wreck, they're going to finish top 10, can be said for nearly anybody in the back. Let's see. I might have ownerships for that race. That's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to see who I played in these races here.
One of the problems here is that this thing's blown up so big for me that it's hard to navigate the sheet when I have it like 7,000 size.
Let's see. Who have I been heavy on here? Xfinity Talladega 2. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm... Oh, CJ McLaughlin.
Timmy Hill started 9th in that race. No, he didn't. 27th. I fixed it.
Let's see. Yeah, so all the ownership, like in most of the back of these races, at least this is Talladega 2 last year. When you're looking at guys starting in the back, nearly most of the ownership goes to J.J. Yaley, Jason White, Santino Ferrucci, Alex LeBay, and then people who aren't being played are people like, you know, Joe Graff Jr., Joey Gaze, Caesar, CJ, Jeffrey Earnhardt, Matt Mills. So, like, usually I'm way higher on, like, the BJ McLeod entries and even some of the Mike Harmon entries. I just try and get off of, like, the names that
the problem is they're not consistent.
No, but that's why, you know, we kind of open this up of I'm well aware that, like, these races can just end up with me having dead lineups. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I'm fine with taking the L. I hate when it happens, but I'm okay doing that. But I just expect these guys to race like a bunch of idiots in every single race. How many lines did I make here? Yeah, check out these ownerships.
Riveting spreadsheet work. People realize the nonsense that goes into this.
Let's see. So let's see the fall race here. Yeah, I got 69% JJ Yaley, 54% Joey Gaze, 46% Smithley, 38% Jason White, 46% Matt Mills, 31% Mason Massey. I mean, those are the guys that I'm like basically building lineups around.
And it's not a bad. So you're probably going to lose more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do win, it's going to be for first place. And so you just got to decide what way you want to go. And then even though some of those occasions where it doesn't work out, you still probably min cash.
Yeah, you min cash with quite a few, and because I haven't hit the optimal, but a lot of the times, like if I can get a lot of these lineups in, well, then I have rent paid for the month. Like I don't have to, I'm not looking for life changing amount of money. I'm just happy, like okay, my month is covered at Daytona. That's all I want from one of these races, really.
All right, we're back in business.
All right.
Sorry, folks. It's just, and this is not the first or last time people will email me, hey, there's something wrong with it, and then I'll check it and I'll fix it. And it's just the way the system goes. The more I add, the more problems are going to be created. The only way that I can prevent these things from happening is just to take data away. People want more data, so as you create more data, it creates more errors. So, sorry. All right, so we're looking at to fix that. Timmy Hill is 27, 13, still pretty ugly. A little bit better. 17th average starting position. That's yikes. All right, back to Daytona 500. From not Daytona 500, the beef what's for dinner, I believe, is what it was last year, and I think it's again this year. Beef what's for dinner, or whatever it is.
These names are like, oh, NASCAR is they're doing so great with advertisements and revenue, and we have these types of names. Like, what are these companies coming in?
Part of me wants to say, why does beef have to advertise? But these days, I'm not surprised that beef has to advertise when we're being told to eat crickets and soy. Like, soy is so bad for you. Everyone knows it. There's enormous amounts of data that soy and vegetable byproducts, I guess what you call it, whatever they're making out of food with these vegetables, is incredibly unhealthy. And the government knows that. The scientists know that. And yet it's being pushed into the point where, like, we're having to go back to beef. It's what's for dinner. It's okay to eat meat again. It's crazy times that we live in. So I don't mind beef advertising on this race. But 5 years ago, I was like, why are you advertising? People like meat. People don't need to be told to eat meat. Now we have to be told to eat meat. Now we have to be told to eat protein. Now we have to be told, like, hey, you know how evolution works? You know how human beings' bodies develop? Like, we have to be taught that all over again.
I'm still just expecting the sweetbreads, it's what's for dinner race to come in out of nowhere.
We should eat sweetbreads. Yeah. We should. I'm not going to. I would like to eat them because I know they're incredibly healthy for you. But I'm not going to do it. I don't want to eat liver and random, or like maybe when we go to war with Russia or whatever, we'll have to make these sacrifices and start having to eat intestines again. Then fine, I'll eat the intestines and hog balls. But right now, before the apocalypse, we'll take it easy on the hog balls. I'm also going to take it easy on the soy. But yeah, sweetbreads. They're supposedly very, very good for you. Okay.
Well, while you were doing that, I was looking on the sheet, and you don't have to do this because, again, this is a ton of work. But one thing that I did like for that for the Cup Series spreadsheet is that you have the positions that have been optimal on the bottom of this page. I'm gonna have to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I'll pull it up so people can see what you're talking about. It's in the Daytona race.
Yeah.
And I could probably quickly flip that together. I mean, I've got 2 weeks to try to do that, so I'll add it at some point. I also have this in the Cup where you can see like specific drivers, how many times they've been optimal. So if we go down here, we can see like basically just stripped away a lot of the noise and the names.
Mhm.
And you can, if I remember, I'm interpreting this right. Like, so drivers starting 30th have been optimal 9 times over the last, 26 plate
Mhm.
races. But you also see like these drivers this starting position has been pretty hot. But man, it's pretty ice cold starting guys up front in the Cup Series. And this is kind of surprisingly low. Like you would think it'd be a little bit warmer,
Mhm.
but it's a Cup Series. So it would be cool to pull this data and see what it's like in yeah. So now I've got another thing to do. But I'm kind of excited. I'm if you had to guess what this is going to look like for Xfinity,
I think it's going to be much heavier from like 12th to probably 30th compared to
you think
the
you
Cup
get more
Series.
green up here in the teens?
Yeah, we're,
Which this is also kind of weird. Like, why is this a dead spot right here? No man's land. I guess it's all cold, but you'd think like as you get further from the front and closer to the back, it should just gradually warm
Mhm.
up. But that's not what we see with the data over the last whatever 7, 8 years, whatever it's been since the first contest. It's kind of just like right here, 20.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right,
It's literally half the back half of the field just takes a huge jump, and that's
it's
why when I made the video last week looking at the Cup Series optimal lineups, like I was shocked to see the distribution because the we just talked about how it's been cold, like the top 20 has been cold, but the ones that are optimal are or the races where those positions are optimal, there's multiple positions inside the top 20 where they're optimal. Like it's legit not the wreck vests when
yeah,
the top 20 work out.
yeah. But if there's a wreck fest, then it just flips the switch. All right, everybody from behind 20th, you're in. Everybody ahead of 20th, you're out. Sorry, dims the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, like we said, okay, where are you going to draw the line? Is it 25th back or 20th or back? And we just had this kind of general idea,
Mm-hmm.
concept of previous races and just playing and watching them. And it's not just a general concept. Like our eyes are correct. And it's not just like, oh, where are you going to draw? No, literally just draw the line at 20. That has been the number.
Yeah.
And like even thinking like, well, maybe I go back to 25. Yeah, but you're also going to miss out. Like if you would have drawn the line at 25, let's say you played every one of those races and you did the line at 25, then you missed out on what 20 different guys that were in
Mm-hmm.
optimal lineups. Whereas if you would have drawn the line at 20, sure, it would have been harder to cover all the people, but you would have hit these guys. Obviously, you're going to hit them more often if they're in your pool. If they're not in your pool, then you're not going to hit them. So there is it for Cup. But for Xfinity, it'll be really interesting to see that. So I'll put that together. I think you will see a little bit more green here, but I think we might see a little bit more green here as well.
Oh yeah, it might be like really bottom heavy. So it might be like really heavy from 40th to 34th.
It's so weird that there's 9 times the car starting 30th has popped
Yeah.
up. That's 9 out of, I think it's 26 races, if I'm correct. Is it 26? 25. So 9 out of 25 off the top of my head. What's the math on that? 30%?
I refuse to do math on streams or recordings because I'll just look like an idiot with how long I take. So I just
I was using my calculator. 36%. 36%. 1 out of 3. So if we're just going to keep playing that math out for
Mhm.
the Cup Series, 1 out of every 3 lineups, you got to include the driver starting 30th. Isn't that what the math says?
Yeah. And so this is a situation where like clearly I love looking at positions. When I looked at this, I was like, okay, who are these people? I know we started with Xfinity, but I like talking about Cup Series in this form.
Well,
Like
it's good because I think framing it this way helps people understand better
mhm.
because they're more familiar with the drivers like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. So when I saw like 30th popped up, I was like, okay, who are the drivers here? And all this stuff is correct. So all these laps
All
are.
right.
I was like, who's starting like 30th? And I'm pretty sure it's been. Um,
I got them on screen
oh
here.
yeah, there you go.
Paul Menard, it's fine. Jimmy Johnson, that's fine. Jamie Murray, that's fine. David Reagan, good play racer. Past winner. Corey LaJoy, Priest. These guys are good. That was when Corey LaJoy was on fire.
Uh,
I mean, like who's a bad name really? I guess Alfredo is the worst, but again, Front Row Motorsports always put together very competent car. I mean, they won the Daytona 500. So, and then again, that David Reagan win that we talked about. So there's already Tyler Reddick, past Daytona Xfinity winner.
Yeah, like all and
Anthony Alfredo twice.
yeah, and so when you,
Fast
I forgot what
pasta.
seasons they were when they were doing the stupid group qualifying, and so I don't really look at that, but certainly when you looked at last year, you know, the guys starting 30th, even with the metric, it was guys who
So many gimmicks. So many gimmicks. I can't even. I was just talking about that in my truck, like how we have to relearn this whole thing every season, and there's been so many gimmicks and so many changes that I've forgotten all of them.
yeah.
I remember when they just grown to accept stage racing, right? They just make these major significant changes, and then there's just like, oh, it's always been like this. Like, 5 years from now, when everyone's still wearing masks, everybody like that's always been like this.
Uh-huh.
It's like they're following NASCAR's lead. Behind all of the curtain is NASCAR and Keith McGee.
Yeah, maybe Brian France.
My video, but
Yeah, maybe Brian France wasn't the issue. Like, to be honest, it's only gotten worse since he's been removed. Like,
no, imagine that. Like, it was at its peak when you had. Well, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get you. Possibly alleged coke addict. I probably shouldn't say anything. I'd get in trouble. No, let's not say that. But he did get a DUI, right? We can say that he got a DUI. Actually, it's a compliment. We thought things were bad under Brian. Sounds like real life. We thought things were bad under the old guy that ran the show. Boy, have things gotten worse. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yeah. It's like, boy, we thought things were bad a couple of years ago with that other crazy guy in charge.
But and anyway, the before we got sidetracked, I fully believe the reason why we're seeing like the low 30s positions being optimal more than likely because those are like they're not the back marker vehicles. Like these are cars that can actually be competitive in the draft who should gain positions.
And they also like don't care about qualifying at all. Like they don't have to qualify into the race. They don't care if they go down and run a hot lap. Some of these things recently we didn't even have qualifying for. Plate race qualifying is one of the more irrelevant things that ever happened. And they made it even worse when they did those stupid tandem drafting out there. The guy in the tail end ends up running the fastest lap. Who was it that missed a race?
Do you remember when, like, I mean, there'd be like 12 people who would miss a time. Like, they wouldn't take a queue time.
Yeah. Someone didn't qualify. Was it Danica Patch? I can't remember who it was.
It was somebody big.
They were big and like, what are we doing? Yeah, they wouldn't take a time, or they got out there and man.
And then they'd wreck coming to the end of qualifying in Xfinity.
Just stupid. But hey, we got qualifying back. Congratulations. All right, back to Xfinity. Looking at I keep saying we're going to look at Brandon Godovich. All right, so this is looking at the wrong one right there. Let me fix that to Daytona 2. Actually, that needs to be a V, I think. Daytona Fall, Daytona. No, that's right, Daytona Fall. This is supposed to be 21 Daytona 1. Yeah, that's Daytona 1. That's Daytona Fall. Daytona Fall, correct. This is supposed to be Daytona Spring. And that is correct. That's Talladega. All right, I just have too many. I just duplicated it. Could have. No. Here we go. Fun. You get to watch the reason why you're paying me.
Like I said, we're doing this, on the 9th of February. We're fine.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I should have probably done this stuff a lot sooner. I don't know. We should have waited to record the podcast, I guess is the correct answer. But we didn't. So
you know, I mean, these are problems that you run into when you're in the sheet for 54 minutes. We're fine.
Well, yeah. So if anyone's stuck around this long, they're not like, well, I'm not buying that sheet. You just watched 50 minutes of it. I think you probably already bought the sheet. So that double kick. So I've got Daytona Fall, Daytona Spring from 2020, 21, 21, Dega 21, Dega 21. There's Dega 20, but that's just because of a formatting issue, right? So I think I just doubled it up on accident. All that data is correct. It's fine. It's fine. This is where Daytona 2022 is going to go.
There we go.
Hey, just got myself a little bit of head in work.
Slightly.
That's how I look at it. It's all right. I'm ahead of the game now. Now that'll mess up. Like people are like, yeah, but now that the data's gone, it's going to mess up the averages over here. A little bit. More than anything, it's just I got to fix one of these stupid calculations because it's looking at a thing that's not necessarily there. But like you can see, obviously the numbers aren't going to change much. But now I'm kind of annoyed by, the reason why is because I need to put an if error. Welcome to my folks.
Welcome to your life. Like
this is why you pay me,
yeah.
you don't want to do this stuff because again, when you change one thing, 7 million other things. Yeah, I'm sitting here criticizing NASCAR about what they do, and then here I am doing the exact same thing, changing systems around and creating more errors and more problems. I mean, every one of these little things, every tab might as well be yet another gimmick. All right. So Daytona, Brandon Godovich, and he was racing for it. Was it Sam Hunt?
Yeah, that's Sam Hunt car.
Jason White, there he is. AJ Allmendinger, Cesar Baccarella, probably with Gosselin maybe in that race. Not sure. It doesn't really matter.
I'm trying to.
I think it was the one time that he hit.
Was that the one where they bought a ride for AJ, or am I thinking 2020?
That's 2020, which I was thinking of that earlier. How amazing Cullig has been at the plate tracks, and yet in that spring 2020 race, their cars were garbage. Remember that nightmare? And they had to buy the RSS.
Yeah, poor Jeff Green lost his final plate race ride.
Yeah, so AJ got into. Might as well look that one up real quick. I think Haley was fine, but JJ Yaley. Yeah, that Jeff Green. Who was it that lost the ride that day?
Jeff Green. Let me.
They gave him a race later on in the season, and I think he actually cashed in on a couple races.
Mm-hmm.
Was part of the deal, and he was decent in those races. It's like a Texas or something. 2020 Daytona Spring, but Chastain's car had serious issues, and I don't think it finished the race. He had a mechanical issue halfway through. I don't know about AJ in that race either. Let's see. So there's Chastain, and he finished.
Yeah,
he was laps down in that race.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was bad. His average running position was 22nd. That car was just not up to snuff. AJ in that race, I guess he didn't even race or run. Maybe it was. I thought AJ was a part of that too. I think AJ just didn't make it, and then they had to work a deal to get Chastain in.
Mm-hmm.
And even Haley looks like Haley was fine, finishing 6th. But the other two, good job, Cully. Man, that feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
All right. Back to how far are we into this? How long have we been going?
Oh, we're near an hour.
All right.
I think we're
do a couple more. Yeah, because the only reason we can't go any further because I don't want to find any more problems with the spreadsheet. It's just going to happen. Like I'll find out eventually, folks, and I'll fix them all, and I'll do the best. I'm not trying to scam anyone. Brandon Godovich, Jason White. I think the bigger takeaway here is I got the laps on this one, so let's look at the laps and see how chaotic and crazy it was. Like, if you had to guess, again, I can't remember these plate races from a year ago.
I'm gonna guess 8.
I can remember most of the races, but man, it's hard to keep all these plate races together. Yeah. How many more so in stage 3? Instead, first thing I would say is half the field had to have wrecked out, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 5 in stage 3 because
how many cars on the lead lap?
17. I'm gonna guess.
Well, let's look at the finishing position. I'm gonna say about 15. If 13 Stephen Parsons, I'm going to say 15. And I'll say 20 cars finish on elite. So 20 cars finish, period. And 15 on lead lap. And how many cautions in stage 3 do you
I
think?
said 5. Because I'm bad. I always
Yeah,
throw stage cautions and stuff, but I think they probably just kept restarting and wrecking. Oh my lord,
all
they
right.
had 3 yellows at the start too.
Yeah, we got 19 cars on the lead lap. But again, more cautions, more wave rounds, more lucky dogs. But there it is. Half the field is outs. Half the field. 19, I said 15. I think here's an interesting thing, real quick. Just look at the finishing position compared to where they were running. Brendan Godovich, he was in 29th. That's average. So give or take, he's running outside the top 30 for most of that. I could put the data there to pull those, but I'm not going to. I think you can get it for like the second Daytona. I put it in there. You can see specifically like AJ ran 100% of his laps inside the top 20. Who's someone who didn't run? All of these guys who finished up here at Daytona were running their laps inside the top 20. Anybody? Like, man, that's is what it is. All right. Back to it. Jason White hanging out in the back. For the most part, still, that's actually more of an uncomfortable spot right there. Mid 20s. Go to the back or go up front. Don't dance around in the middle. Baccarella. Not just his average position, but if we weigh his average position to the rest of the field, he was basically in last. Right? That average rating position of 30th is the 39th. So I kind of like that. I like that Baccarella was spending the maximum amount of time in the back. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, so oh man, these guys just love wrecking here.
Yeah, we'll look at the record real quick too while we look at Baccarella running. Inside the top 10, he turned 3 laps.
It has to be like under yellow too. There's no way he did that under
Yeah,
green.
I guarantee that is. Those are just cycling around.
Yeah.
All right, so he's in the back, and we get 3 cautions in stage 1. Awesome. He's running in the back of all stage 2. Doesn't care, and that's fine by me.
And also, so one last thing here: unless you're just completely off the pace, you will not go a lap down in between stage 1 and stage 2.
Yeah, the issue you run into is stage 3 if we don't get cautions, and it goes completely green. And we've seen this run into like Mario Gosling cars, and those guys run into trouble because they are hanging in the back. And if you don't get that caution in stage 3 and you got to pit, that's where they lose a lap. But there's usually some sort of crazy caution at some point that gets them to cycle back around or whatever. But if you get cautions like right here, go get your fuel. You can probably stretch it. And there's plenty of other cautions. 1, 2, 3, 4 more cautions in stage 3. And that's how you get Cesar gets his way back up to the front. So plenty of cautions in last year's Daytona spring race. Beef. It's what's for dinner.
I think we about touched on everything for Xfinity, to be honest.
Yeah.
At least
any closing thought? Like, well, what's your final?
Final
takeaway is what we already know.
So if
play guys in the back.
Go ahead, you go first.
Play guys in the back. I'm done. Like, what is there? What can we add to that?
I like playing guys in the back even more, especially if they really are going to have close to 50 cars trying to make this field. Those cars that start 38, 37, 36, 35 are going to be decent cars.
One thing I will add, I need to fix this. See, look at that. The more I look at it, I see more problems just because the color coding's wrong. It's always something. Anyway,
yeah.
One thing I want to point out, which may make the Xfinity series a little bit different from the truck series. Truck series, I lean more towards just stacking the back, maybe one guy up front. Cup series, you get a little bit more like, hey, maybe I do need to play 3 guys up front. Maybe I need to play 2 guys a little closer to the front. So if those are like the two opposing views of stack in the back versus how maybe it's like a 4-2 build or a 5-1 build. Xfinity, maybe it's in between. Maybe it's leaning more towards I might need two guys up front, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's one guy starting in the top 10, two guys starting in the top 10, two guys starting in the top 10, two guys starting in the top 11. This one's pretty crazy, but it's not. I mean, but then you got two guys starting in the top 10. So my point is, yes, stack in the back, but with the Xfinity series, there is some evidence that supports playing some of the drivers starting closer to the front too.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to be decent names that have probably been, whether it be colored cars or JGR cars or someone that has experience, I would say.
Yeah, like oddly enough, I was gonna say like I don't want to play Ryan Preece in the top 10, but he's optimal in the 2024 race. But
Brian Priest always had a pretty good approach to these plate races,
uh-huh.
He was like all those guys for I try to do a little bit of cheat work here real quick.
All those guys are usually pretty good. I think that's what you're trying to say.
No, what I'm trying to do too much at once. R30. Sorry. I'm trying to say that JT Daugherty had a good approach in those races. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They would be very passive, which worked.
All right, I think we're gonna end it here because we're losing our final. Hey, there you go. I was starting to lose. I was starting to doubt you.
Let's end it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, folks, that I was working the spreadsheet while recording. That's what we'll start doing. I'm just going to do live here, watching me do formulas.
Yeah, there we go. So people know what you actually do. So they know you're actually working.
I think it actually is kind of neat. Like to wrap up, like to try to spin this in a positive sense. Like if you were to walk into the back of a kitchen and see all the work that goes on at a restaurant, all the things that they're doing, then you might be, more satisfied with the amount that you're paying.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw like the real work that goes into a lot of the stuff that we purchase and buy, then we'd be, more accepting. So I guess maybe when you see like some of these little things they have to fix, like stupid little thing right there, just get the coloring right.
Mm-hmm.
That took a couple of minutes. Actually, it should be quicker, but I'm trying to do two things at once. But that takes time. All these little things take time. Every little sheet takes time, and so maybe helps people realize, oh yeah, that's what I'm paying for. Because I understand that paying $250 for a season package or paying $40 for a month might seem outrageous at times. But if you see all the little things that you and I have to do for every single spreadsheet, every single podcast, and okay, yeah, that's what I'm paying for. Because otherwise, you would have to do these things. And A, that's assuming that you know how to do it, which I think most people don't know how to do. B, you know how to fix the problems when they start happening.
Mm-hmm.
C, you have the time to do it. D, you can efficiently do it. Like, here's the thing. We'll do it all for you so you can just have fun and build lineups. That's what you're paying for. And I think the price is pretty fair.
I think it is, and it's easy to read. I know we're going on, but I would always say that your sheets are the freaking easiest to read I've ever seen.
I'm also open to people give me suggestions all the time. The only one that I routinely ignore is I can't remember the guy. I'm sure he's probably not listening, but if he is, I need 3 decimal points with the practice. I shouldn't be making fun of him. Shouldn't be doing a weird face, but he always wants 3 decimal points. And if I were to do that, it makes the spreadsheet hard to read. And it's I know that you need 3 decimal points, which I don't think you do. And you don't need to know that the lap time was 28.2253. Maybe he does. Maybe he's got some sort of algorithm that has figured everything out. Well, most of the time I listen to a lot of the feedback. Or I listen to all the feedback and I make changes. But that's the one I routinely say, no, I'm not running the decimal points out to the moon, man. We're just going to go 1 or 2.
We don't need the 1,000 because when I look at practice day, there is times not in your sheet, but I'll be if 2 people have the same 100th, I'll then look at the 1,000th, but we're splitting hairs,
Yeah. So, but I listen to all the feedback and make changes. So if you've watched this far, into this video, then I absolutely respect you. And if you have a suggestion, if you have a suggestion, I definitely would listen to it.
Yeah. You can find him on Twitter at Race4thePrize. You can find me at BrandonCruzDFS. Thank you for watching. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about the Cup Series in more detail at some point this week or next week. But yeah, thank you for tuning in and listening to us.